Okay, so welcome back to part 2 of our interesting fireside chat with the great folks from Lippert here who have given me an opportunity to come up to Elkhart, Indiana and talk to them about a very popular topic that people are talking about on social media. And I said talk a lot there, but the reality is you know, if you're looking at RVs and you're researching them on YouTube or other social media platforms, people are bringing up this whole concept about frame flex. And what we really want to get into the bones are trying to figure out what could cause it, why some people may have that issue, why some people may be dealing with it. We addressed a lot of that in video 1, so go back and watch video 1. It really talks about things and scenarios that you could encounter which might cause your frame to flex more than it's intentionally designed to. It's a marrying of the RV and the frame together that makes one solid structure versus the other working independently, right? Is that probably a good way of saying it?
That's a good way.
All right, so go back and check out video 1. This is video 2, so you really have to check out video 1 before you watch this one, so please do that. But we're going to dive straight into the questions, and again, these are questions that my viewers and subscribers submitted to me to ask you all. So this is a big one. And it's a big one. It's a very, very short question, and it's going to have a relatively short answer, but it's a huge one in people's minds. And that is, many people believe that you import your frame steel. Is this true? If it is or isn't true, where do you get your steel from?
Not true. It's domestic steel. It comes from a mill in Columbia City. There's a mill in South Carolina, I think, but it's SDI and Nucor are our two beam suppliers, and then we buy the tube from a variety of different mills that are fairly local.
Okay, so you're saying right now that none of the steel that is used in the frame structure of your RV is imported overseas?
I don't believe that there are any components that are imported. It's possible that maybe an outrigger or some other small component would be, but I don't believe at this point that any of them are.
Okay, but from a frame structure itself, it's all U.S. manufactured
Correct.
steel?
Correct.
That's a big one because a lot of people right off the bat, and it's huge in the comment section on every single video that people have posted regarding frame flex. They say, well, if they'd stop using imported steel. Okay, so question number 8 is, if an RV manufacturer notices that a frame they purchased from you is not able to support the structure they're building on it, are you and do you sometimes make running changes to enhance the structure of the product to meet the RV manufacturer's need?
Yes, we certainly can do that.
Well, I think what's challenging about the first part of that question is the way you preface that on if a manufacturer determines that it can't hold that structure. I mean, typically those conversations happen before that chassis is put into production.
I guess the reason I asked that question, or at least the viewer asked that question, is because let's say that they have a small refrigerator and all of a sudden they upgrade to a large residential refrigerator mid-line.
Sure.
And if all of a sudden that creates a gross vehicle weight rating issue where the cargo capacity has been reduced, are you able to look back at that chassis and say, okay, if this is the refrigerator, if this is the washer and dryer you're now including in that RV and it's going to increase the weight, the dry weight of that RV to X number of pounds, can you make modifications to the frame to be able to support that for future models that have those appliances?
Yeah, I mean, generally they do that through model change. So if it's something like you want to change a floor plan, there's a process that goes through so that it's planned, as opposed to, I mean, yes, we're very nimble, we can make changes, but with respect to just design changes, those are conversations that are happening all of the time in preparation for future model change.
Okay. Question number 9. Are you trying to work with RV manufacturers who may be experiencing some of the frame flex or so-called frame flex issues in determining how to help customers who are having the problem?
We work with all of our OEM partners on a daily basis. Not specifically about that, but we certainly are a resource if they do have questions or concerns that they want our help with. They know that they can always contact us and we'll work together to help support them.
Question number 10. Is this problem primarily happening to units with drop frames?
Yeah, I don't have a unit by unit breakdown of which ones you're specifically talking about. My one observation would be that the drop frame gives you between 10 and 12 inches, depending on what the upper beam height is, of additional storage capacity inside that passenger storage compartment. And so if you've got a larger storage compartment, then the likelihood that you could be overloaded would be increased.
So that question actually kind of leads into the next question, and this is a long question, so please bear with me on this one. But this is actually a question that I came up with, and I was interested in knowing because I think this is something that most people don't think about. Do the RV manufacturers account for and factor in weight distribution into the house that they build, and how this impacts the remaining cargo carrying capacity? This could result in future owners loading cargo in areas that will eventually add up and potentially overload those specific areas while still staying under the gross vehicle weight rating of the trailer. Right? So basically, all areas of the frame able to carry or handle the entire cargo carrying capacity in the event this occurs? And if you need clarification on that question, I can give you an example.
Well, I mean, again, we've talked before about the difference between the chassis and the superstructure and how the whole thing together acts as a uniform frame. So I'm not an RV manufacturer. Obviously, they're our partner and we work closely with them, but I can't tell you what they are or are not doing with regard to that.
And I guess the main reason, again, why I ask that question is if we look at an RV that has a 20,000 pound GVWR, its dry weight is 16,000 pounds, and it's got a 4,000 pound cargo carrying capacity, a lot of people will believe if I load my basement storage up with 8 batteries, 2 huge inverters, and all my stuff, plus I have an own-end generator up front, plus I have a washer and dryer inside of this unit up front, I have all this weight that I've added, probably in the area of over 1,000 pounds of weight, but they're centralizing that area in the basement storage and not distributing it along the length of the RV. Do you run a risk at that point of staying under your gross vehicle weight rating, but possibly overloading one section of your RV to potentially cause some other area of the structure to suffer because of that?
As a structural engineer, I would say that's not advisable.
Okay, and I think there's some common sense that's in play there as well. An example that I think I used was if I had a car which weighs 5,000 pounds and my cargo capacity in my RV is 5,000 pounds and I put a car in my basement storage, is my RV going to be able to hold the weight of all of that in that basement storage area when we all know most of the manufacturer's instruction manuals say to distribute that load, distribute the weight across the frame. But oftentimes we see a storage area and we want to fill up that storage area, not thinking about where that cargo should ideally be placed. The challenge, of course, is the floor plans. Not all floor plans allow you additional places to store stuff. It's all in the basement storage. So I guess that's a question that I have, and I think it's one that people need to understand clearly, that big battery systems, big inverter systems, carrying around heavy accessories with you, washer and dryers, aftermarket mattresses that weigh 200 pounds, all of this stuff adds up, and you're centralizing almost all of your cargo capacity to one area of the RV. And I always kind of wonder, from an engineering standpoint, are these frames actually designed to be able to carry the entire cargo weight of the RV in one small centralized area? Because that's what most people do.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to go back to the fact that the superstructure of the house of the RV working in unison with the frame. It's not, and there's varying degrees and differences on how manufacturing processes and practices, design standards within different RV manufacturers. Would be very difficult for us to speak to what they take into consideration there, aside from, the GVW. That's generally where you want to draw the line between, we're dealing with the GVW standard and they're dealing with the rust of the floor plans and the layout and understanding what customers are going to do there. I think most of them are pretty thoughtful in those regards, and that's just a really tough question for us to try to assume what they put in there, because we just are not in that process with them.
Okay.
We can tell you what the max pin weight is based on the pin box that we're specifying, and so obviously it's important that the retail customer understands what their weights are.
Yes.
But as far as what the cargo carrying capacity is in that storage compartment without knowing all the other pieces and where they're at and what they weigh, we're not in a position to be able to make that determination.
Yep, and we talk about this also with toy haulers as well, which are designed to be nose heavy because they have a large garage in the back that's designed to hold a heavy toy, and when you put that toy in the back, it'll offload some of that weight from the front. So if you're not putting a heavy toy in the back, then you're going to be nose heavy. So if you stack batteries and everything else in the front storage compartment of a toy hauler, you're just exacerbating that, I'm assuming. You're adding a lot more weight to the front of an RV with no cantilever effect to the back of the RV by placing a heavy toy or something like that in there as well. So these are just things that I think about, and I'm sure people want to know when they own an RV and they're trying to figure out, where do I put my stuff, right? This manufacturer gave me a great big garage, so that's a good place to put a toy, but I don't have storage to put the rest of my 3,000 pounds worth of cargo carrying capacity. And oftentimes I wonder if sometimes people's approach is, well, if it'll fit there, I'm going to put it there, and it doesn't really matter if it's going to overload the structure in that place or not. So what you're telling me is it's really up to the RV manufacturer to build a house that gives people the option to distribute the weight. It's not really you. You're building the frame according to their specs, but storage is the responsibility of the RV manufacturer who's building the box on top of the frame.
Correct.
So question 12. Do all RV manufacturers have the ability to request a significantly overbuilt custom frame if they're willing to pay for it and understand the increased weight, mass, cost of design, engineering, additional materials, and fabrication? Does this happen? And do you have an example perhaps of an RV manufacturer who's requested such upgraded frames? I ask this question because everybody wants to know if there is some type of issue where an RV manufacturer is speccing out a frame that's not super heavy duty and they're building this big chassis, and could they reach out to you and say, we want a frame that's a tank. We want a frame that can hold anything. We want a frame that can do whatever we want to do with it. Is that an option for an RV manufacturer if they're willing to pay for it?
Yeah, it certainly is. So, and we build custom frames for some of the smaller specialty manufacturers already, so we can certainly build it. We have a wide variety of I-beams and tubes available, and we can build pretty much any sort of an RV chassis that anybody could ever want.
So
Correct.
To me, that's kind of an example of, yes, you can do that. You'll build the frame to the specification that a manufacturer wants. They just have to be realistic with how much that frame's going to potentially weigh whenever they're done, is what I'm taking from this, right?
Well, like I said before, we have customers that will actually send us prints and models and tell us to make this.
So basically, if somebody wants a super overbuilt frame, they just have to tell you, I want a super overbuilt frame, help me engineer this.
Absolutely.
That's good news. All right, so next questions are going to be kind of interesting questions, and these are questions that kind of blew me away when I started thinking about the scope. So you guys produce, I think, upwards of like 1,000 frames per day. That blows my mind away. I can't even imagine what it takes, and I think tomorrow's tour you're going to show me how that's possible. So that is absolutely crazy. Can you give an idea of how a chassis goes from concept to reality?
Sure. Yeah, so like I mentioned before, we have chassis guidelines and we have a chassis spec sheet, and so typically the process is our OEM partner will draw up what they're looking for as far as a rough chassis drawing, as well as provide floor plans. They'll fill out the spec sheet. They all have copies of the guidelines, so they'll usually take a look at the guidelines and they'll actually draw everything up to match. And then they send it to us, and that's when our engineering team gets involved. And we'll take it from AutoCAD 2D drawing in a lot of cases, or sometimes they'll give us 3D, but most of the time from a 2D drawing, we'll model all of it up in SolidWorks and take it from that point. We'll get the bill of material put together, cross-check it against the chassis guidelines to make sure that there's no areas where we might need to add some extra outriggers or change the beam size or increase the tube gauge. And then we'll go ahead and release that bill of material into production. And then when you go to the plant tomorrow, you'll see how we take that bill of material and turn it into an actual chassis.
Oh, very cool. I'm super excited because I think that's really where people are going to understand and truly see what all goes into it. It's not just three people in a room drawing up a design saying, hey, let's make this thing, and 3 hours later they've welded together something. I think I'm really interested in seeing the aspect of what goes into actually starting a frame concept and actually it getting through the process of being ready for an RV manufacturer to build upon it.
Yeah, like I say, there's a number of people that are looking at it through the process to make sure that, for example, if you have a residential refrigerator, we require extra outriggers underneath it for support. And they're making sure that if the print that we get doesn't include that we're adding that extra structure or making recommended changes as needed.
One thing that I've always wanted to know a little bit more about, and I know that you are very familiar with it, is RVIA. So can you tell me a little bit about RVIA and what that sticker means on the side of an RV whenever you go to a dealership or you go to buy an RV?
Yeah, sure. So RVIA is the RV Industry Association, and they essentially, they're the regulating body of the whole industry. So that little sticker that you see, the blue RVIA seal, that comes as a certification that they meet RVIA standards. So they do have inspectors that go out to RV manufacturers. They have certain key systems checks and various standards that they do audits to ensure that the manufacturers are following. And that's essentially, the seal is how you know somebody is a member. If somebody does not have an RVIA seal on that vehicle, then you know that they're essentially not they're not a member of RVIA, so they are not agreeing to be bound by those standards.
They're not holding themselves possibly to those standards.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that it's that they have their own standards to hold themselves by, but there is an industry association that is out there and just making sure that we're doing the right things and being diligent in terms of how vehicles are manufactured and how we support customers. There's a lot of task force there that happen. There's various there's steering committees and other entities and task force that work to make the experience better for RVs, and it's always really about how do we make the RV experience better as an industry, how do we serve customers better, and really, it's just a great lifestyle. I mean, I love RVing. I know you enjoy RVing. Mm-hmm. I know you enjoy RVing. We really appreciate you coming here. There's a lot of great things, and so we appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate that, and I've had an opportunity to kind of see some of the RVIA stuff in firsthand, and I realize that it applies to the whole RV. It doesn't apply just to one little component. It's plumbing, electrical, it's suspension. It's the percentage of overkill you need in some cases when it comes to how things are designed. It's a pretty stringent standard that if you see the sticker, at least you know that manufacturer says, from a third-party perspective, I'm willing to be audited to make sure I adhere to that. So that's a really good thing.
Yeah, and the yellow sticker that you see on the door tag as well, that shows your GVW, your loaded and dry weight, that's an RVIA regulation as well. So, and that was created to provide more visibility to the end user so that they could better control how they load their vehicle.
Oh, that's great. I didn't even know that was why that sticker exists. So that's really cool. So finally, and to kind of wrap things up, if there are people who want to know more, they want to get in touch with Lippert, they want to have a conversation about why things happen, what's going on, they want to have a tour, they want to be able to know more just in general about who Lippert is, what you're doing, what do they need to do? Gosh,
there's a lot of options there. We love to give people tours, obviously. You'll experience some of that tomorrow. We have so many different options for customers. So whether it's on the phone, looking at our support documents, there's a lot of very helpful YouTube videos. We have a whole team that does nothing but create content around owner's manuals, troubleshooting guides. We have video content creators on how-to videos, as well as our technical training program, which we've recently expanded to RV owners as well. So we have periodic owner schools that you can attend and learn about product. We're more than happy to take groups through various manufacturing facilities. We have a lot of really great facilities here in Elkhart County. So, really just getting in touch with us and scheduling that. We have our Scouts community as well. If you're not if people want to join Scouts, we have a lot of great resources there too. So we have a lot. And I know I feel like I'm forgetting something, but there's, we love to bring people through here. I think our Technical Institute is a great one to tour too. That's 40,000 square feet of live mock-ups, chassis similar to the ones that are sitting here that we help to train dealer techs. I mean, to give you some perspective of how big that is, in 2023, through our technical training program, it was over 60,000 credit hours that were earned by dealer technicians that goes towards their RVTI master's certification. So we do a lot there because we think that it's important to get trained people to work on product and make sure that dealers can fix things quickly if they have issues.
No, I appreciate that, and I think that that's important. I remember when Scouts launched several years ago, it was overwhelmingly popular.
Yeah.
And not only that, one thing I've also realized is if you are an RV owner and you have a Lippert product, which almost 9 times out of 10, if you're an RV owner, your refrigerator, your microwave, your air conditioning, your frame is going to have some type of component that's owned by Lippert or manufactured by Lippert. But if you are part of the Scouts community, you ask questions that oftentimes get you answers that you might not normally know where to go for. There's a lot of folks that say, I have an issue with this. What do I do? And instead of being lost or blind or just scouring YouTube, there's like 15,000 scouts that are willing to provide feedback and say, this is what you can do, this is how you fix a problem, this is how you avoid a problem. So the community aspect of Scouts and starting that program, I think, is critical. Not everyone on there is a fan. Right, and that's the thing. You also want people who can speak critically because that creates credibility, but at the same time, it drives process improvement as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
I mean, all of these things always make us better, and that's, I mean, we say you're not going to hurt our feelings. I mean, candor's one of our favorite things. It's how we get better and continue to raise the bar in the industry. And we also have a couple hundred people that are in our care center taking care of all those products and answering phone calls and questions. And so, yeah, I mean, all you gotta do is 432-LIPPERT is the phone number to call. But going online to lippertcomponents.com and the support pages, there's a whole lot of self-help documents there as well.
okay. And if, of course, you have any more questions about frame flex, things like that, I'm sure you guys are more than willing to have those conversations with people as they come up.
Yep.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you for coming on camera. I know it's not an easy topic to talk about, but it's one that definitely needed to be talked about.
Important.
Yep. Go back and check out the prior videos we've done, and definitely come back to check out the new videos that we'll be releasing, where they give me a very, very exclusive, in-depth tour of their factories. That's going to be really, really cool, and I think it's going to highlight and bring to the surface an aspect of Lippert a lot of people probably never knew about. Yep. Anyways, again, thank you very much. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up. We'll be back to talk to you again very soon.